So your other son is noticing these things.
Big time.
And what's the aftermath there? I mean, what's going on in these not only the court's minds, but in these counselors' heads?
So here's the thing that I've discovered, and this is very disturbing. So the left is just playing on a different level than we're playing. Okay, so there's something I call identity medicine now. Mm-hmm. You have identity politics, there's identity medicine. And they've created a system where they can manufacture scientific facts. It's basically a 6-step process. I've talked to a lot of Republican groups about it. They basically create open source journals. They attract like-minded scholars on the left. They create new meta-theories for interpreting evidence. Then they apply those meta-theories to the past evidence and reinterpret that evidence. And then they convert these open source journals into normal journals like in Elsevier or other medical journals. And then suddenly you have this giant body of peer-reviewed research that's total bullshit. Mm-hmm. So they manufacture facts. In 2015, the American Psychological Association changed a number of classifications related to gender dysphoria, right? It used to be called gender identity disorder, and they changed it to gender dysphoria. The difference is a disorder is something that's wrong with the person. Dysphoria means something's wrong with the culture not accepting the person. Mm-hmm. So basically, gender dysphoria is when your culture doesn't accept your gender expression and you have negative outcomes from that. So the way the APA has interpreted this change is that you cannot help a child identify with their biological sex. That's considered reparative therapy. In 20 states, it's already illegal. So if you have a child that's going through puberty that's gender confused, no psychologist, it's a member of the APA, is allowed to help the child identify with their biological sex. They can only help the child identify with a sex other than their biological sex. That's all they can do. Wow. The Texas Psychological Association put out a letter in response to my case specifically mentioning it, in which they reiterate that that is their policy too. So there's no counselor or psychologist, perhaps even no psychiatrist at this point, that is going to help a child just get through puberty and identify with their biological sex. They're not even allowed to. So what happens is these professional bodies then go into family court because all the custody evaluators are psychologists. Mm-hmm. They go into family court and they testify to these things, and they get hundreds of court cases, right, all ruling the same way regarding gender dysphoria. And suddenly you have immense body of case law. And we normally think of laws that we live under to be statutes that are passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. But actually there's a whole other body of law that we are bound by. There's two others. One is administrative law from the agencies, and the other is judge-made law through case law. They reinterpret cases, and that's binding law on the courts. So they have created a system by which the left can go into courts with these experts and create case law and bind all future court decisions according to these crazy theories. That's the big danger for us right now. Right now in the courts, we could still stop this stuff. If we can win these cases and stop this stuff in the courts, we could prevent that from happening. But if you look at the recent Supreme Court decision on Title VII, where they go back to a 1960s law that mentions you cannot discriminate on the basis of sex, and they interpreted that to mean gender, the modern definition of gender. So they totally reinterpreted this law to include this notion of gender, which was nowhere contemplated by the legislature that passed that Title VII. So this is the kind of thing that you're going to see the left doing more and more and more. And they have a very well-developed system for doing it. They're doing it in family court now. I mean, that's how we got gay marriage. Came out of family court, right? Right. Remember, gay marriage was voted down in all 48 states where it's brought up for a vote. It was voted down in California twice by a plurality of gay people. Even gay people didn't want gay marriage. Right. We won the battle. We won the legislative battles on gay marriage. The courts imposed it upon us by reinterpreting the meaning of marriage using the legal doctrine from Roe v. Wade. Right. So the courts are absolutely using this experts. Psychological experts to create precedent, which they will then impose on us. And that's what's happened to my son. I think one of the reasons the left is seized on my case so much is that here you have a boy that with everybody else, he presents normally as a boy. He's just a normal boy. He's a boxer, likes to play football, right? He's super fast runner, incredibly fast footwork. Olympic talent scouts want to talk to him for boxing. They won't talk to him because they don't know what's going to happen with his gender dysphoria, right? But when he's with his mom, he's a girl. So this boy has a choice, clear choice. He can go and just live a normal life as a boy, and the outcomes, if he identifies with his biological sex, are objectively better. Even the other side concedes that. Or he can continue on with this social affirmation and social transition, which my expert, Dr. Levine, testified, pushes children toward chemical transition. Their intentions in the medical records was to chemically castrate my son at 8 years old with puberty blockers and put him on cross-sex hormones at 10, which would permanently sterilize him and retard his bone growth, and he would have micropenis. He would have a toddler's penis for the rest of his life. That was the goal. That's in the medical records. I'm not making this up. Presented at trial. Okay. So he has two outcomes, and they're very radically different, pathways forward in life. Why is the court taking this risky pathway and pushing my son into this dangerous transition? And the only answer that you can come up with is that the courts are acting ideologically, they aren't acting impartially towards the evidence, and they are not acting in the best interests of my child.
Yeah, I've said for years that the left has to control three areas of life, and that is the courts, the media, and education. Now I'll add a fourth, the medical community.
Yes.
This is what I mean with medical tyranny. A couple of minutes here before we got to take a break. Yaku.
Yeah, man. Off air, there's so much to say here. Look, I won't call myself an expert, but those that run in this field do. We fight child sex trafficking. And I can tell you, you've got a case here that's 100%. You were at a disadvantage the day you married because you married an individual who has medical information, who understands how the brain of a child works, who understands exactly how to manipulate the brain of a child. That is a predator. That's the pure definition of a sexual predator. And I want people to understand she's also seeing other children.
Yeah.
She is.
She's speaking into the light. So parents should go, that practice should shut down. They should shut it down because she's speaking into others. And what they've created here with your son, but I'm going to say there's a but God. You said he has two choices. Watch this boy make the right decision and walk out as a man. But in the process, Chad, here's what they've done. They're creating dissociation disorder. They're forcing dissociation disorder on him through a familial entity. And familial trafficking is the number one form of trafficking today. So here's a doctor and a mom who is an authority figure and now a principal and a teacher, all pressing. And now they're forcing the boy to split personality. They're forcing him to be a boy with dad, but which he really wants to be, and a girl. And so, my prayer for you and your family, and I'll close with this, is that he stands strong, that his brother in secret, his brother is the key here.
Yes.
That's the weapon. They can't stop you, but they can't stop brother.
Right.
They can. When those two boys are just sitting in the corner there and mom's not watching, I pray that his brother speaks truth into his life, and his brother sows into him, and that brother contends for him and fights for him, and that his brother's voice is louder than mom's voice. I mean, there's so much here, Chad. This is by design, by the way. I mean, it's sick to the sickest level. It's demonic.
Totally sick.